to start off with, this is what we're going to be having a look at. We're going to be identifying the difference between aims and values, because they're two very different things, and all schools do have these, whether they promote them and publicise them a lot on their website or in their prospectus or whatever you may find. We're also going to examine how aims are maintained within a school, as well as how values are maintained within a school. So we're going to look at the difference between aims and values, and we're also going to have a look at how they're maintained in schools. So, values. So values are essentially just principles that schools find important. They want to instill them in learners. These can be attitudes, and these are things that are quite old. We've got a long history of trying to instill values in schooling systems. So I've given a couple of examples there below
where you can see we've got Mill Hill School, we've got Longridge Tower School, we've got Scarborough College. These are long-standing colleges and schools that have, in some cases, they've got their values put in Latin just to show how long-standing these things are. We've had values put in schools. We've had schools trying to instill these values in learners for hundreds of years, and we can see these in some of the examples that we've got there. We've got the value is character and culture in Mill Head School. We've got Scarborough College saying think bravely, think boldly, that sort of thing. So these are values. These are things that the school wants the learners to sort of instill in them. Now, all schools have got their own values, but all schools must adhere to British values. So in terms of the British values that all schools must maintain and promote, they stick to the same four, and they are individual liberty. So or you may also know it as individual freedoms as well. We've got democracy, there's tolerance, and then there's also rule of law. So these are things that all schools must maintain. And when we say it's British values, these are essentially it's an ingredients list for a good citizen. So all schools must be promoting these as their values, in addition to whatever values they may hold themselves and want to instill in their own learners. So we have democracy there, rule of law, tolerance, and individual liberty. Now, personally, I don't like the way that tolerance is worded and included there. I feel like those differences in beliefs and cultures and things like that, it shouldn't just be tolerated, it should be celebrated, because it's something that makes the country so great. But it is a value that we have there. In terms of aims, they're what they want the students to be able to achieve. So they want to ensure that learners learn and show values, but aims are what they want the learners to be able to do or able to achieve while in school. So in the case of this London School of Economics, their aim is, and again we've got it in Latin there because of how old these things are, it's been a part of schools and education for hundreds of years. We've got this is, I believe, I can't remember which coat of arms this one is from, but again we have a Latin aim of the school, and you can see that this is quite an old one because the rhetoric's quite dated, isn't it, when it's saying about safeguarding the empire and whatnot. But it does just show you how long these things have been a part of education. So what we've already done is we've had a look at the difference between aims and values, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to move on to the aims and values and how they're being maintained in schools. So what I've done is I've created a fictitious school, okay? So we've got Humworth Grammar School, all right? It's a state school, and these are their aims, and they say that they uphold British values, okay? So in terms of values, they've not said that they've got any particular values, but of course, as a school, we all know that they must uphold those British values. Okay, we've had a look at them already. Now, the school aims, they're described as they aim to help develop lively and inquiring minds. They aim to help promote resilience and independence, and to nurture their environment. And as we say, all schools must uphold those British values. So what we're going to have a look at in the coming slides is this. What is being done to embed this into the learners and their experience? And what might this look like?
Okay, so the question in that you're going to be answering, it's not asking for one-off activities about how a school might show that they're doing these things. It's asking about how schools promote this. Okay, the overall actions that they will do to promote this, and we'll give a couple of examples of how they maintain it in a minute. If you want to give an example as to how a school might maintain it, that could benefit your question as well. So at Humworth Grammar School, they've got this aim to nurture their environment. Now, this is one that I've picked out, and we're going to have a look at what they do to maintain this aim. Right? So they maintain this aim by teaching the importance through integrating it in lessons, as well as ensuring that the school is tidy, it's safe, it's got a supportive learning environment, because we're not just talking about our natural environment, we're talking about our educational environment in this capacity, aren't we? And showing respect to others and ensuring that we are encouraging this, embedding this safe and supportive learning environment. So that's how they're maintaining this. Now they may demonstrate this. They may demonstrate that they're maintaining this aim by doing various things. So we've got running litter picking campaigns, raising awareness, all sorts of things like that. Now the second aim was to promote resilience and independence. So how could staff maintain this aim? This could be done through extension tasks. It could be done through independent learning. It could be done through project work. It could be done through setting personal targets and taking ownership of setbacks. Okay, so this is how schools are ensuring that they're maintaining this aim by giving the students these tools to be able to do that. So promoting resilience and independence. I'll open it up to you guys. If you would like to utilize the chat box for this one, actually, how could schools maintain promoting resilience and independence? So that's the aim. What could they be doing to promote that?
So maybe giving people roles within the school or class. So they could be given like a role. I know sometimes they have ones to do with the environment or ones about looking after the class, or they have roles within school, don't they, where they can kind of be, they have like a school council and things like that. So something similar to that maybe.
Yeah, that's Gemma, isn't it? Yeah, that's correct. That's one way in which a school can demonstrate that they are maintaining these aims because they are, giving the students the opportunity to do this. So, what you could say is a school is maintaining this aim by giving the learners the opportunity to demonstrate these things, and then you could give a couple of examples, such as somebody who's the environmental representative, or students taking part in student council or something along those lines. Okay, excellent. Any other thoughts? So Jasmine, I think Jasmine's given a brilliant suggestion there, which is independent group study, children taking the lead in helping each other. So it's not, that's a good one, because it's not something that is a big school established policy, I suppose, but it's encouraging students at a very sort of grassroots level in the classroom to take ownership of their own learning, their independence, but sort of independently creating those sort of study groups and things like that. And that's not just primary, that could be secondary, college. These sorts of study groups do exist and are independently created. What about resilience? Because resilience, that's a good one there, isn't it? Resilience, getting back up when we're knocked down. How could a school maintain this aim?
Is that when they can? I've not worked in a school before, but is that when they can mix children or young people with different abilities, and they can help each other when someone gets a question wrong? They're like more of it, rather than being individual, it can be like a team. So they can get each other back up and get points as a team rather than individual. So they can work on each other's strengths. Yeah.
So very good answer. That was Stefan, wasn't it?
Stephen, yeah.
Stephen, sorry. Yes, that's a great example, because that is something that. Okay, excellent. So very good answer. That's a good answer because it is a school showing that they are promoting resilience by having this mixed classroom, and so by having these mixed classrooms, these mixed groups, students are supporting each other and helping them sort of like pick themselves up when they get knocked down.
So yeah, that's a brilliant way of demonstrating that they're maintaining that aim. All right. Other examples. So we're looking at a lot of cases where students are sort of independently doing these things within a school or a college or a primary school, but we could also be seeing it in outside of school. So, for example, Duke of Edinburgh award activities, having them participate in creating the class contract. So, in giving the students the control over, what is acceptable behaviour, the sort of code of conduct, the behaviour contract that you might see in a classroom, giving students the opportunity to take part in creating that. That demonstrates that the school is maintaining that promotion of independence and taking control of their own learning and their own behaviour. And learner targets in book. So learners responding to and actively taking control of their own learning by having this learner engagement in their own learning and taking control of their own learning. They are maintaining this aim. All right, so we've had a look at aims and how they're maintained in schools. What we're going to do is we're going to return to the aims and values of ᴢᴏᴏᴍ Grammar School. Now, because ᴢᴏᴏᴍ Grammar School haven't specifically said that they've got any particular values, many schools don't say that they have particular values, but all schools must uphold these British values that we've mentioned before. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have a look at the value of democracy, okay? Focus on that value, because this can be instilled in schools in various different ways. And schools can demonstrate that they are maintaining this value in lots of different ways. So how could they maintain this in a classroom or across schools? And again, if you want to use the chat box, great. If you want to unmute yourself and have a crack at that, quite welcome to. But how could a school maintain this value, the value of democracy?
By allowing the students to give their opinion in the current events, which is discussed in the radio or discussed in the school or any events, they should give, they discuss it with the child in the school, any event, and they should give the student should all giving a chance to give their opinion freely. Yeah.
So that's that opportunity to have discussions about real world events. That's an important. That is definitely an important value. How could you link it directly to democracy? Because that's the key sort of point here, isn't it?
System. So I know my little boy's school, he was in reception this year, and they raised money for some outdoor equipment, and they told the children that they could vote for what they wanted to buy with it. So they gave them two choices. And they all voted, and they chose either a sandpit or some new bike. So they got to choose what the money was spent on.
Yeah. So both very good answers, and both sort of answer each other and contribute to each other there, actually. So given the students the control, being able to decide upon key things in school, sorry, what were the two examples that you gave, Gemma? It was the sandpit or the...
Yeah, they raised some money, so they made some soap and they sold the soap, and then they told them that they could pick, they could choose what they wanted to spend the money on that they raised. So they either bought a new sandpit or some bikes, so they had to vote, they had to put the hand up and say which one they would like, and then obviously the one that got the most votes is what they got.
Yeah, so to the school, that's a fairly big choice for the students to have, because it's something that they're actually engaged with and involved with through the start, middle and end, isn't it? Because they are part of the process when it comes to the planning, the raising money through the selling the soap, and then also in making that decision and involving them in that decision in what the money's going to be spent on. So yeah. We've got a couple of suggestions through the chat as well. So we've got open discussions freely. And I feel like the key word there is freely, and ensuring that any student has got they're free to contribute to the discussion in whatever way, shape or form that they want. So not encouraging discussions where everybody's opinion is valued and taken into account when they're having these discussions. So how might a school maintain? It's demonstrating that they're quite often allowing for these group discussions. That's how they're maintaining this value. How are they maintaining this value? They're giving the students the opportunity to make big changes within the school. Now that could be part of the campaign that Gemma just outlined, or it could be, like Melissa's just said here, running a wider student council. And that's something that occurs not only at primary school or secondary school, but you also see it in student unions in the form of student unions in a college setting as well. So these are all different ways in which a school can maintain this value. So you can integrate the value into the classroom environment by doing all these different things. You can allow each student to have a voice, which is where we're talking about those open discussions and making sure that all students feel as though they can get involved in these. Instilling this respect for others, okay? Respecting other people's voice, that they can have a contribution in these discussions. Ensuring that all students are treated equally in their answers in class or in any sort of contribution that they may have. Ensuring that everybody has to follow the same class rules and that nobody is above the rules. These are all different ways in which we can maintain this value of democracy. Because democracy is more than just taking a vote, isn't it? It's that very core principle that not only are people taking a vote, but the fact that all of their voices are equal. You know, that not one student is above another student, given more opportunity than another student, has more support than another student. Not more support. Sorry, that was a terrible example. Forget what I just said there. Making sure that all students have the equal opportunity to be able to access that education is what I mean. So what would these look like? All right, so these are what we were having a look at before. So integrating the value into a school environment, that's where we're looking at student rep and student rep elections. Allowing each student to have a voice in the classroom. This is how a school maintains this value. How do they demonstrate it? They let learners vote on warm-up exercises, for example, or display colours, or things like this. And this is embedding democracy not in big school events, although it's important to do that and give students a voice in those events. But it's embedding it in the very sort of grassroots level in the classroom, in giving the students the opportunity to, vote on a warm-up exercise, display colour or theme for displays that are put around the classroom. Respecting other opinions and opportunities to voice them. All right. So this is how a school is maintaining this value. They're maintaining this value of democracy through all these different things, and they're demonstrating that they're maintaining these values by debate clubs and opportunities for learners to set these debate clubs up themselves. How does a school maintain the value of democracy? Well, everyone has to follow class rules. No one is above the rules. So how do they demonstrate that they're doing this? Well, they're making class contracts. Finally, encouraging interest in recent events and discussions within a safe environment. That's how a school is maintaining that they are maintaining this value of democracy. How do they demonstrate that they're maintaining this? Well, they're writing to elected officials potentially, or creating a model UN within the school. If you'd like to unmute yourselves, if you want to give an answer for this one, or include an answer in the chat section, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up a couple of screenshots from a Twitter feed from this from various schools. And I'd like you to think about what sort of values might be evidenced in these slides. And again, there's no wrong answers. You could be seeing these values in any one of these activities, and the school is maintaining the value that you suggest by doing such an activity. So, first one is this one here. So we've got Beeston St Luke's. They're saying thank you for everyone who's donated a huge £727. Well done to the ambassadors. Donations to children in need can still be made at, and then they've got a Just Giving link there as well. So what sort of values are being demonstrated in this particular instance here? How is the school demonstrating, or what value is the school demonstrating? How are they maintaining that value?
I'm looking at compassion and team spirit.
So compassion, team spirit, right away, those are two brilliant values that the school is maintaining through. How is the school maintaining that, Stephen?
It's obviously pledged, haven't they, to donate to certain charities, and they've got the kids on board with it. So they've probably not just made it a rule, they've actually probably voted on it, mate, I'm assuming now. They've probably voted on a charity, and then they've probably got the kids involved in doing certain activities they can fund towards those charity events.
All right, so they're maintaining this value of compassion, etc., 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 by getting involved in this particular charity run here. Now, you mentioned democracy. Actually, does anyone see anything there that might indicate to them that the school value of democracy is being maintained, upheld here?
I suppose they've got it's equal, isn't it? They've got different genders, different ages, different backgrounds, all getting involved, and they probably all have a vote on it and on what they're going to be raising the money for.
Good stuff. And I think that's something that Tony's just pointed out here as well. He's made the observation that we don't just have a homogenous student base here. We've got various different students that are being demonstrated in this particular post. It might be the resolution of the slide. You may not be able to see it, but what they've said is, well done, our ambassadors. That could suggest to me that potentially that the students are part of a wider student council potentially. But these are various different values that are being demonstrated. What else do we have? We've got community involvement, telling people on social media. So they are, this is Gemma, thank you. So Gemma's saying that we've got community involvement. A school is maintaining their value of community involvement. How are they demonstrating this value of community involvement? Well, they're demonstrating that they're maintaining this value by running this charity event and raising awareness of this charity event. Okay, so next one. So we've got, again, B. St. George's here. So what I'll do is I'll read it out. Mrs. George was very excited to discover a little visitor in our grounds this morning. If you spot him again, let us know. So what sort of value is being maintained here? This is a bit more of a tricky one. Maybe you've got to read into it a bit more, but there's definitely values that you could pick out here that the school is maintaining.
Caring about environment.
Excellent. Right. Okay. So caring about the environment straight away. The school is demonstrating, is maintaining their value for caring about their environment by showing children, giving children the opportunity to interact with wildlife. Right.
I was going to say maintaining natural habitats because it looks like they might be making something there. I can't quite see the slide, so I'm just guessing. But have they made a natural habitat there, and they've now got a visitor occupying it?
In the actual slide itself, you can see. Well, I can see that there's certainly there's greenery there. It looks like they've encouraged a wild garden. So yeah, so encouraging students to respect nature and the natural habitat potentially. We've got, so Gemma has said nurturing and empathy. So here and again, this requires us to see the actual slide itself and the images there. We've got a child who is very, very close to a hedgehog here. And so this child is clearly demonstrating the value of a nurturing empathy. He's not disturbing the hedgehog. So, that's a value that we can infer from this image as well. So the school is maintaining these values of empathy and nurturing by giving students the opportunity to interact with nature in a respectful way. So Sue has pointed out that inquiring minds. So the school is upholding the value of, I'd probably say that inquiring minds is maybe an aim actually, But I mean, that's good, because the question in question, I suppose, is how does a school maintain its aims? So in this case, it could be that the school aims to encourage inquiring minds. And how is it maintaining this aim? Well, it's maintaining this aim by giving students the opportunity to learn more about wildlife by having a wild garden, potentially, if that's what this is. We've got Simon, who's saying that understanding the world around them and that we live amongst nature, right? Again, so is that a value or an aim? I suppose it could be either. But again, the school is maintaining that they are maintaining this value or this aim by giving students the opportunity to do so, giving them the opportunity to learn, observe in this sort of way. Right, okay, so without staying on this one too long, I'm going to move on to the next one. So this is a good one here. I love doing the World Book Day ones. So what sort of values, let's think about values, okay? What sort of values might be evidenced in a school running a World Book Day?
Adventurous and confidence.
All right, so adventurous and confidence. How by? Could you elaborate on that a bit, Stephen?
Yeah, so basically say adventurous and confidence. So how adventurous are they going to be in putting the costume together? So a bit of creativity, and then they've got to be confident enough to wear it. So I suppose you're building on that culture. So are they comfortable around their peers when they're in the class to wear it in the first place? Yeah, so using their imagination, isn't it?
Yeah, so you could pull out any number. I mean, just from what you've said there, brilliant. You could pull out any number of values that a school might be demonstrating, that a school might be maintaining any one of these values by, having such days that gives the students the opportunity to, challenge themselves in their confidence. Are they going to wear something that they've made? The creativity, of course, that's a value as well. You could also have creativity as an aim too, but of course, that it goes across when we've got an event like World Book Day. Create positive feelings towards reading.
Promoting literacy
could be a value or a aim. Who was promoting literacy?
Jasmine. Hi. Sorry.
Hi, Jasmine.
Hey.
Hello. So promoting literacy. That's definitely that'd be an aim, as well as value, I suppose. And so, how is a school maintaining that aim? Could you put that into Could you explain that to me, please?
I don't know.
No, that's fair enough. I appreciate that the individual pictures on the Twitter feed is potentially quite small, but in terms of like a World Book Day, if you can imagine a World Book Day where the students can come in dressed as their favourite characters or whatever, how could you describe that the school is maintaining their commitment to promoting literacy?
World Book Day, it's diverse. You can pick a book from any corner of the world. It might encourage other kids to be like, oh, I like your costume. What book are you reading? Value of sharing. Yeah.
So they're maintaining these values. They're maintaining these values by giving the students the opportunity to open up discussions about literacy and books and their favourite characters and that sort of thing. So we've got a few chats. Come through. So
tolerance and kind of equal treatment as well, because some children will come in like store-bought, shop-bought fancy costumes, and others it might be something they've made themselves or parents have made, and some might not even come in much of a costume at all, and kind of the understanding that some children will have these fancy costumes that have been made or bought, and others might not do, and kind of the equal treatment of everybody, that we've all come, we're all taking part, even if you just brought your book with you, that you still, everyone's treated in the same way, and maybe they might have a book from somewhere you've not heard of or in a different language and things like that, and kind of learning about things like that.
Yeah, that's a great one. I think that's one of the values that sort of goes a little bit unnoticed sometimes, because it definitely promotes tolerance. It definitely promotes that
sort of team building in a way, because it's sometimes these things can be made into a competition, like who's got the best costume. I remember when I was in primary school, I went to World Book Day as Eric Bloodaxe. All right, where I had a little shield and everything. I had like covered in mud and like smashed it up with rocks and all sorts of stuff. It looked fantastic. Honestly, I thought I looked brilliant. So I went in and everyone said, "Oh, you look brilliant. You're definitely going to win." And then somebody came in as Where's Wally and just like swiped it. Honestly, he got the first prize, and I was disappointed because I spent a lot of time on my costume, but that value is instilled in you on that day. That value of respect, I suppose, that value of tolerance and team working skills, old school values like being a gracious loser, things like that. I mean, you wouldn't have a school saying that they're promoting the value of being a good loser or anything like that, but it is a value that you may take away from this World Book Day sort of day. So yeah. Right, I'm going to, because I've been neglecting the chat, I do apologise. So, of course, creating positive feelings towards reading. A school is maintaining this value by, having a World Book Day and having books not as, some dusty old thing that sits on the shelf, but it's something that comes alive. So they're actually making sure that schools are promoting reading and literacy by giving the students the opportunity to not just read, but, live what they're reading. We've got encouraging students to show their opinion by bringing their favourite book. So you could say that they are demonstrating the value of, I suppose you could even say, democracy in this one, because every student has the opportunity to come in and say, this is the best book in the world, and try and inspire potentially other students to read that book. So it's promoting that value. So a school is maintaining the value of democracy by allowing all students to come in whichever book they so wish. It's an equal opportunity in that case. So we've covered quite a lot of these bits. So reinstating the love of reading and inspiring little imaginations. Okay. So how is a school maintaining the value of inspiring imaginations? Well, a school is maintaining this value by giving students the opportunity to explore reading and literacy in a different way that might be a lot more, well, it is a lot more engaging, isn't it? Rocking up to school in a Viking costume, it's really engaging. It's a lot more fun than reading a book, but it gives them that extra dynamic, that other interaction with literacy. So finally, let's have a look at this last one. So what I'll do again, I'll read this out. So we've got Beeston School again. Good luck to our cross-country team in their races today. Here are a few of the photos from last weekend. The results last week are as follows, and then it gives the results of the various teams. So it's demonstrating how the runners from the school have participated in local races with other schools. And there's a few photos of them all arms around each other, very, very happy. Very diverse sort of group of students that you can see there. What sort of values are being maintained here, do we think?
Sport.
So what we're seeing is definitely sport, but what sort of value could you have alongside sport? So if you're doing sport, or if you're participating in sport, what sort of
is it competition?
Yeah. So you could be, promoting competition, getting students to push themselves, So the value of determination potentially, or independence. Those are definitely values that are being maintained through getting students involved in sport. Thank you.
Their loyalty to their schools by raising its name.
Yeah. So a team spirit, the school promoting a positive school environment. So again, this is where we're talking about the loyalty that comes to the school, feeling a sense of commitment, not just to
not just to your class, but to the wider school environment. Thank you. So we've got Natalie has contributed. She said that teamwork and resilience. So the school is definitely maintaining the values of teamwork and maintaining the values of resilience by giving the students the opportunity to participate in competitive sports, which, you know, it is resilience. The students are demonstrating resilience because, you know, they're not going to win all the time, so they've got to be resilient. They've got to, you know, pick themselves up after a defeat. They've got to be resilient, you know, power through difficult times when it comes to, you know, when you're playing sport in bad weather potentially. Yeah. Allowing courage and healthy competition. Yeah, so these are values that are being maintained by the school in that they are, again, giving the students the opportunity to be courageous and brave in some sports that potentially they could be quite scared of. If they're playing rugby for the first time, they're encouraging this value. They're maintaining this value by giving the students the opportunity to do things that challenge them and that scare them sometimes, doing new things. With resilience. All right, so Tony, very good explanation of how you might include democracy in this one. Everyone is invited to participate. You know, the sport gives everybody the opportunity to participate, regardless of who you are, because it's on, you know, sporting merit. Promoting healthy lifestyles. So again, I'd probably say that would be an aim, but again, the question in the actual assessment would be, how does the school maintain this aim? So it is maintaining this aim by through sport, because sport allows students to pursue a healthy lifestyle. It could be that through sport they have this sport education where they learn about healthy lifestyles. What else do we have? We've got...
there's a diversity and equality in this team, because there is a black people, black student, and white and small and young and girls. You can see the diversity in this team.
Yeah, so the team has got a diverse base, doesn't it? It's got a lot of students from different backgrounds potentially, and in giving all students across the whole school the opportunity to participate in sport, it allows students to socialise with, learn with, play sport with students yes, there we go. So integrate students from various different backgrounds all together and bring them together through sport. Yeah, so they are maintaining this value of diversity and inclusion by encouraging students to participate in sport. And how does that allow students to pursue this value? Well, it allows them to pursue this value by giving them the opportunity to work with students from different backgrounds, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so rule of law. Yes, Gemma. Yeah, so rule of law, when we're talking about British values, we haven't actually talked about rule of law a great deal, because we had a lot of focus on democracy, didn't we? But rule of law, it sounds quite grand, doesn't it? But essentially, when we're talking about rule of law, it's just following and respecting that there is a set of rules that we go about, and we follow these rules. And so in sport, we've got these rules, and by following these rules and respecting these rules, we are demonstrating that we are upholding this value of rule of law. Yeah. All right. I mean, we could go into the topic of sport and pull out all sorts of values, because sport is brilliant for that, because it does give us the opportunity to explore various different values. But what we're going to do is we're going to hold off on that for a bit, because we have covered everything that I would like to cover. I mean, as I said, we could pick about the rest of it for quite a long time. I'll open up to you guys now. Do you have any sort of final questions, any thoughts on the unit in general? Because, like I said, I've looked at the whole of schools and organisations, and because it's quite a large topic, it definitely can't really be done justice in the case of a one Zoom session. And I would absolutely miss out lots and lots of important stuff. So I wouldn't want to do it all in one. So what I've done is I've picked out one part which I feel can be quite tricky, because when we're looking at aims and values, sometimes it's difficult to sort of differentiate between the two, and that question of how does a school maintain it can be quite a tricky one. So I find that that's something that needs just a bit more work on in terms of schools and organisations. But are there any sort of wider questions that anybody has at this point that you'd like to ask? You can either do it by in the chat box or unmuting yourself.
Would this be like kind of something then, so the aims and values that teachers would be thinking about every day when planning the lessons? Is it a main thing that they've got to think about whilst doing it, rather than just being like a kind of school thing? It's going to be what part of the lesson each day. So where we're looking at these, kind of like with my little boy, with him voting and things like that, you think, oh wow, it's really good, but then you recognise what it is they're doing and why they're doing it. So is it something that's kind of part of a lesson plan almost?
It is. It is definitely, when you're writing a lesson plan, you do have things like, how is this lesson going to uphold British values? How is it going to promote individual liberty? How is it going to promote tolerance and things like that? For the most part, these things are, they can be ticked off quite easily, because you're upholding these values anyway. In an effective classroom, you're upholding all these values. Again, it depends on the school values, because all school values are quite different. But in terms of British values, these are values that all schools have got to be upholding. And it's things like, that democracy, making sure that, that you are answering all students' questions, giving every student the same sort of time to, the same sort of portion of your attention, if that makes sense. So treating students equally in that capacity. All right, it doesn't necessarily mean that you've got to have a vote every single class time, every single lesson, but having the occasional vote is upholding that British value. But of course, democracy isn't just about voting, is it? So yeah, these values are integrated in every aspect of school life, regardless of whether it's like top tier, student rep, student council, model UN, all the way down to how you're behaving in a classroom.
I suppose a lot of them are there just kind of general manners, aren't they? A lot of them can kind of be recognised by how you should treat people and stuff, so you'd like to think that's what they were doing anyway, rather than...
Yeah. They sound like big grandiose terms, but they're not really, are they? It's just a toolkit for a decent human being, isn't it? As I say, if you do have any questions that you don't have right now, but then all of a sudden you remember, please feel free to contact me or the other tutors. But if there's nothing else for now, what I'll do is I'll end the Zoom session, and